Hello, welcome back to The Reading Mama. My name is Heather, and today I have for you the mid-year book freakout tag or some amalgamation of those words. I'm gonna put all the prompts down below. Some of them I saw a modified version, and so I'm going to actually do that. And so I am, as always, when I'm forced to choose a best of anything, I'm gonna cheat. And I will give you multiple titles for many of these answers. So let's dive in so we don't take up too much time. So number one is best book or series that you've read so far in 2026. Now, I did think this was interesting because in my book journal, I have, the bracket system, and the book that I feel like is going to be the best book of the year is not even on the bracket. So, take that with a grain of salt. But I'm going to go through a couple different sub-genres that I really have enjoyed and share those. So for thriller, I've really been enjoying Terry Blackstock. And so the If I Run series was phenomenal. I talked about that in a previous video, I think at my wrap-up of last month, and I've just really, really loved all of her writing and have really gone down a thriller rabbit hole because of her. Fantasy, I think I'd have to narrow it down to two. It's either The Daughter of the Moon Goddess duology, or it is Hero of the Ages, which is part of book 3 of the original Miss Bourne series. And I love both of them. They both were phenomenal for this year. If I was going to pick a fairy tale, would be Dust by Kara Swanson or Rapunzel's Gambit by Mary Meacham. Those are a little bit less popular. So Dust is a Peter Pan retelling, and it is, I'm not gonna lie, Kara Swanson gets deep and dark in it, and as I made this list, I realized I really like things that destroy me. It was phenomenal writing. I really liked the retelling for Peter Pan and how she did it, because it's like, I don't know, let's just say it's got a lot of heavy concepts. So there are some trigger warnings, and you'll want to look those up beforehand. Rapunzel's Gambit, like complete opposite, by Mary Meacham. It's just hilarious, snarky, witty, and just had me laughing out loud from beginning to end. And I really loved that Rapunzel retelling, obviously. For biblical fiction, Pearl in the Sand. 100%, this is a Rahab retelling, and I loved every bit of it. I especially loved that it went on to portray a marriage for her after she joined the Israelites, and it does it in a way that I just really love I love the heartbreak in their marriage and the struggles and how they overcame them. So that was phenomenal. If I was going to pick a historical fiction, it would either be Nature of Small Birds or Lovely War. And I loved both of those. Nature of Small Birds, it's multiple timelines. And somebody had told me, it talks about Vietnam War, and it does, one of the timelines does, but it was just, that's not what stood out to me. It was the love of husband and wife, the love of mother and child, the love of friends, falling in love, being in love at the end of life, and it was so beautiful. Absolutely loved it for historical fiction. Lovely War, again, was a beautiful portrayal of love. And this one, you have like the ancient Greek gods have come together to hold trial on Aphrodite, and why, though she's the goddess of love, it's hard for her to be loved. And they use these examples of people during World War I that were just beautiful. And so you have a lot of heavy other concepts in it, but it was so sweet. It was just so sweet. I almost DNF'd it because of the opening being wacky, but stick with it. I promise you'll enjoy it and it'll be worth it. My favorite romance novel that I read this year so far was either Capture the Moment or Blue Castle. Capture the Moment is a young girl becomes a wildlife photographer and goes out into nature, meets a ranger who works there, grumpy sunshine kind of thing going on. And I just really loved it. And honestly, I think it's the nature aspects of it. I love being out in nature. I don't get to visit national parks. We live in a weird place in America where we are many hours from any national parks. And so I don't get to go to them at all. I've only been to Smoky Mountains. So phenomenal. I really loved it. Blue Castle's Ellen Montgomery, and again, it had a nature concept and the healing power of nature, and I loved the relationship and the the way she heals throughout it, just beautiful. And then for a contemporary, I really loved Ready or Not by Shatana Havig. And again, this is a woman who takes over for her brother-in-law and sister pass away, and she has to take care of their 8 kids. As a mother of 8 kids, obviously that's going to speak to me, and I just love the hijinks and all of that. And there's little inklings of a love story coming, but that wasn't the premise of the first book, and so I just really enjoyed it. Now that I've fully cheated on that one, let's go on to number 2. Best sequel you've read so far in 2026, and that's hands down Heart of the Sun Warrior by Su Lin Tan. That's part of the Daughter of the Moon Goddess duology, and I think it has like a short story, so maybe it's considered a trilogy. I haven't read that part yet, but I digress. Heart of the Sun Warrior was just beautiful. The main character, and I don't know how to say her name, even though I did the audiobook, I still don't know how to say her name. I want to say it's Jinyin. Jinyin is, she works for the Celestial Court, the Chinese gods and goddesses, and her mother is the moon goddess, so that's where the first one. And some major things happen in book 1. There was a bit of a love triangle thing going on, and in book 2, there's just a story of redemption, and obviously she has to go through a lot of heartache to get to the redemption part, and it was just beautiful. Absolutely loved it. And then a new release that I haven't read but want to would be the one sitting on my shelf. So The Last Wayfinder by Ellen McGinty came out earlier this year, and I'm going to be reading it next month with Chantel Reads All Day Indie Book Club Challenge. I can't wait. I absolutely loved Saints and Monsters. It was phenomenal. This is in the same kind of world, but not the same characters. And I don't really remember what the tagline was for it. There was something, it compared something to something. Really good, right? It's something to do with warriors. I don't know. I just trust Ellen and know that her book was my top book of last year, so I'm eager to read this. Also, I have Victoria McComb's newest book, A Bride of Fallen Stars. To save the sky, she needs the king. I have no clue. I have no clue. There's stars who've come and fallen to earth. I don't know. It sounds interesting. I'm trying not to read too much before I get there. I'm hoping to actually read this before Chantel. I think it's like November that this is part of Chantel's Indie Book Club Challenge, and I don't know that I can keep it on my shelf that long. And then also, I'm trying to get to Dawn of Doves by Abigail Breyer. I read book 1. Book 1, 1.5, and 2 all came out in February. And book 1 was good. There were some growing pains, I think, as an author. But overall, I really loved the story. I loved the plot lines. I hated the main character, which, that can go either way. But it left on a major cliffhanger. So I'm desperate to get to book 2. But I have to read book 1.5 first, which is what I'm doing today. So hopefully I'll get to this one soon. And then it says most anticipated release for second half of the year. I have 2. Liberated by Nova McBee comes out in next week, the week after, June 30th. And I cannot wait for that. So I'm rereading through the Calculated series, which also it was 3 books, and it left on a major cliffhanger for years before book 4 came out. So I'm very highly anticipated for that one. As we follow Joe Rivers, who is a math prodigy who works to help uncover crime syndicates around the world. Let's put it that way. Yeah, we're gonna call it that. And then also Carabosse by Lindsay Llewellyn. If you've been around here long, you know I have a deep love for Lindsay Llewellyn. Her Chaos Grid and Crierstone duology, phenomenal story. Her newest middle grade, Harlow Morgan and the Sky City, also phenomenal. Can't wait to read the rest of that series. So she's starting a new series. I think it's gonna be a trilogy. Carabosse, and the way she's describing it is I think it's YA. It might be middle grade. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure it's YA though. But it is the Mummy movie. yeah, the one with Brendan Fraser. It's like that, but with homeschooled children and a like Amazing Race kind of mentality, I think is what it is. Anyways, it looks amazing. I'm part of her street team, so I've been seeing a few little snippets ahead of time, and I honestly cannot wait for that book. Biggest disappointment. So Remember Me by Mario Escobar, if you were around, was horrifying because it was just depressing. It did not live up to the rest of his books that I've read. Very choppy sentences. It was just very disappointing. And then also a lot of Marissa Meyer books. I read a whole bunch of Marissa Meyer at the beginning of this year after finishing the Lunar Chronicles, and they were just so dark and and just, they just were depressing to me. They were not up to the Lunar Chronicles quality, in my opinion. And so that was pretty disappointing. Biggest surprise would be romance and Christian fiction in general. Because I'm pretty sure I'm on record here when I first started the channel thing, I don't read romance. Like, I read classic literature, but I don't read romance. And I started reading it with February. I want to say that's when. And absolutely just fell in love. And I've been finding some great, well-written romance stories, which makes the difference because I had been reading not great written ones beforehand. And so that's the biggest surprise, that I've liked any romance books, and also Christian fiction in general, because I've also read so much trite or just overhand Bible thumping Christian fiction before that I didn't realize I gave up on it for like a decade. And so now I'm finding some really great Christian authors, mostly thanks to Chantel at Chantel Reads All Day, but also just on Instagram, trying to connect with some indie authors and find them throughout, and it's helping me find some really great writing. And so that's surprising to me. Favorite new author or new to me author? Well, like I said, I'm reading a whole bunch of Christian authors now, so I have a whole list for you here. Jamie Jo Wright. It's creepy. Stick with it. I promise. Trust the process. It will get better. Tessa Afshar. Probably going to break your heart, but it is phenomenal biblical fiction. Michelle Shockley, dual timelines and historical fiction, and usually modern set. And it's just beautiful. Some of the best gospel presentations in a natural way that I've ever seen in a book. Phenomenal. Mary Meacham. Short, snarky, quick, funny, good palate cleansers for a quick read. Terry Blackstock, amazing thrillers that are fun, sometimes, off the wall, unbelievable, but still fun to read because you get the anxiety. They're very fast paced, they're very gritty, and she also shares the gospel in a very natural way. All right, then the next one is number 8, and it's favorite main male character. Now this is a rewrite because the original, I believe, is who's your current crush or book boyfriend, and I'm married, I don't do that. But my favorite main male characters, I have a few for you, but I'm not gonna lie, they're primarily coming from Sanderson. So from Hero of Ages and the Mistborn in general, Sazed, I mean, he's the man. He is, yeah, Sazed. Spook, gotta love Spook. And Eland, yeah, I love Eland. I love that he's a kind of trying to do everything by the books, do it right. And then he has just kind of, after Tindwindle, I don't know how to say her name. He just has a big character arc change, and I love that. Same with Spook. Spook is, kind of the kid at the beginning of the series, and then he just matures and grows, and it's amazing to see his character arc. Absolutely love him. I also, his real name is Lestiborns, and I love that he goes by Spook, and that's him because Kelsier gave him the name, so he loves it. And Sazed, he's everything. Gotta love Sazed, but never Kelsier. I'm going to go on record here that I love these, but I do not trust Kelsier still. I do not love him. Even after I read the little short story afterwards, no. It took me a while to forgive Kelsier, and I don't know that I've fully done it. Also, male characters, Scoot and Lightsong. Lightsong is a return, somebody who came back from the dead and has the ability to give his life to help another. Absolutely love him as he grows and questions and realizes what the purpose of his life is. And his servant, Scoot, phenomenal. Did not see the twist at the end with that one. Also, I absolutely love Hunter in the Grimoire and Key series from Erin, what's her name? Erin Phillips. Yes, absolutely love his character, especially in The Hunt of Calypso. Not as much in Betrayal of Eden, but Ryan Grace, Project Hail Mary, phenomenal character. And then Haymitch in Haymitch, what is it called? You know what I'm talking about. The Reaping one. Anyways, Sunrise on the Reaping. And so I kind of looked at all of those and I was like, okay, what do I love about them? Because also I love Winja from Daughter of the Moon Goddess Duology. And apparently I like the male characters who are intelligent kind of on the quiet side in the back, and a little bit snarky, or really a lot of it snarky is what I like. And then the next one is supposed to be your favorite character in general, and the rewrite that I saw said favorite main female character. I loved Aggie in Ready or Not by Shatona Havig, who is the aunt who takes care of the 8 children. Princess Mira in Saints and Monsters, which I reread by Ellen McGinty. Absolutely love her story and how she comes to understand who she is. And then let's see here. I would be remiss to say I love Vin. I love Vin, and I'm not really forgiven Sanderson about the destruction to my heart that this story has done. But like I said, I think this may be my favorite book of the year. And I love Ciri, who is a young princess in here. Loved her character. I loved her wildness. Kind of like she reminded me of like Mira in Brave, that Scottish Disney movie. Love that. I love Karen in The Hidden Prince, which I did not grab, by Tessa Afshar. And then also Jinyin, I don't know how to say these names, I'm sorry, that's why I did audiobooks, from Daughter of the Moon Goddess. And so when I looked at them, like, all the female characters I like are very strong. I don't know, it was hard. I'm gonna have to analyze that more. I'm trying to decide what it is I like about them that connects, because there's kind of a lot going on. Books that made me cry. Every book I've ever read, for the most part, has made me cry. I am a very easy crier. I'm a sympathetic crier. Like, if somebody's talking to me and they start crying, I'm gonna start crying. And when I read books, I am very emotionally involved, and so I cry at every book. Like, that's what my kids know. They're like, I don't know, it made you cry. Every book makes you cry. So every book. Ones that desperately made me cry were Hero of the Ages, Warbreaker, Daughter of the Moon Goddess. Every single book that Erin Phillips has written that I have read, which I have not read her original duology, but these 4 books, bawled throughout at various times. And Pearl in the Sand also bawled throughout, absolutely bawled. Books that made me happy that I read this year: The Princess Bride, hilarious. Royal Rose Chronicles by Victoria McCombs, which is like magical pirates. That one had Victoria has a lot of funny elements. She's a very witty writer. Rapunzel's Gambit, again, hilarious, funny. A lot of just snarky banter. That's Mary Meecham's thing, is banter. Books by Kate Stradling they're like balance between making me cry and absolutely cracking up, because she like has a very dry humor that like sneaks in, and I love that. I was laughing through Lindsay Llewellyn's Harlow Morgan. Really loved that one. And several other books that made me happy. Most beautiful books I bought so far this year. So I think this is the #1 most beautiful book I bought. But I also bought this gorgeous copy of The Mill and the Floss, and now I'm afraid to read it because it's so pretty. I don't want to damage it. Like, should I put it on the wall? Should I put it on my shelf and like use a digital copy? And so that's all I have for my mid-year freak out book tag, and I will drop everything below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a blessed day.